Hello, my name is Dennis Asamosu. I teach NLP and machine learning at Ashesi University, among other things. NLP stands for Natural Language Processing. It is the technology that has given us products like Apple's Siri or Google's Assistant, where you can just talk to your phone, right, and say, call this person, and the phone hopefully is able to do that, right? Or you say, play this song, and the phone is able to respond and so on, or ask like, what is this, and get a response back, right? That's all NLP, natural language processing at work. Okay, it's what has given us chatbots. So many organizations and companies, are deploying chatbots where you go and you have an issue, and you for good or for bad, you have to talk to a bot and ask questions, and the bot tries to give you a response, right? As well as giving us speech recognition, where you say something and a computer is able to give you the transcription, basically the text form of the thing that you said. Right? So you upload a video to YouTube, for instance, and automatically it tries to give you the subtitles of what you're saying in the video, right? So NLP has like so many uses, and because of that, a lot of companies are trying to deploy NLP solutions. Okay. The problem though is that not a lot of people know much about NLP, right? So you have people that have been, are software developers, and they build, systems, web apps and mobile apps and all these kinds of things, but they don't really have any understanding of NLP. But because of the opportunities that NLP presents and how it may provide, a business a competitive advantage and so on, companies are increasingly asking their developers, build us this NLP system or that NLP system and so on. I have had people reach out to me, developers and companies alike, right? Ghanaian developers, Ghanaian companies, like reaching out to me and telling me about some kind of system they're trying to develop, and sort of asking me for some advice or direction, or so on, right? And because of all these, I decided to put together a course that is targeted at the Ghanaian practitioner, that will help them to develop an NLP solution that is worthy of production or worthy of going live, And so that's what this course that I created is about. It's a bit different from the course that I taught at Ashesi, right? Because for an undergraduate level introduction to natural language processing, you want to teach about the fundamentals as much as possible, right? So you want students to have an in-depth understanding of the algorithms, right? So you want them to understand the theory, right? Because there are many different learning outcomes. It's not just about the students being able to develop an NLP system, right? You want them to understand the theory, be able to do calculations and all of those things, right? Now, unfortunately, many people in the industry don't have time for that. You don't have time for taking a semester course in NLP, and then taking a semester course in machine learning, and then taking a semester course in linear algebra and all of those things, right? They've been asked, by their boards, I want a chatbot, I want a speech recognition system, I want a machine translation system, and I want it yesterday, right? And so they need to quickly try and put together something, learn some information to develop the system. And so that's the category that I'm trying to target with this course. Okay. Yeah, so that's the category that I'm trying to target with this course. And it's important that people have a little more understanding of NLP if they are deploying systems, right? It's not enough to just kind of like read through some tutorial and sort of see how to do this and that, and then you say, you've developed a system and you are going to go live with it. It can be quite dangerous. I'll talk more about that later, right? So in order to help you appreciate what this course is meant to do exactly, I have identified what I call practitioner levels in NLP, right? So I have identified 5 practitioner levels in NLP. So I'm going to, quickly walk you through those practitioner levels. And once I do that, I'll be able to kind of clearly describe what this course is hoping to do, how the course is structured, and how exactly we will be doing this. Okay, so let's talk about the practitioner levels. NLP practitioner levels. Okay. Level 1. So a level 1 practitioner is someone who is able to develop a basic NLP system in a given area using closed source platforms or libraries. Okay. Now, these practitioner levels that are identified are not practitioner levels in NLP as a whole. NLP is a really broad area. Okay. There are many, it's a really broad field. Let me say that. There are many different areas and different tasks. Okay. Someone may be very skilled in one area of it and not necessarily skilled in another area, right? So, you may be level 2 when it comes to developing chatbots, but be level 1 when it comes to developing speech recognition systems, right? And so on. So these practitioner levels that I have identified are specific to areas. Okay. So a level 1 practitioner in an area is someone who is able to develop a basic NLP system in that area using closed source platforms or libraries. Okay, so let me use chatbots as an example, right? Or task-oriented dialogue systems. Okay, task-oriented dialogue systems as an example. So a person who is a level 1 practitioner is someone who is able to use a closed source library or platform, like say IBM Watson or Google Dialogflow or some other, closed source platform to develop a basic chatbot. Okay. That is what I refer to as a level 1 practitioner. Okay. So, you are working in a company and one day you come and your boss says, I want us to build a chatbot that can interact with our clients and respond to queries. And so, you do some search around, Google or Bing or, whatever search engine you use. And then you come across, maybe IBM Watson Assistant or Dialogflow. And then you find some tutorials that teach you how to develop a chatbot with, Watson or with Dialogflow. And then you follow the tutorial and then, you change it or tweak it a bit. And then you develop a chatbot that is meant to do what your boss asked you to implement. Okay. This is what I'll call a level 1 practitioner. Okay. The other thing I should say here is I make reference to closed source platforms or libraries. So for those who may not understand what the term closed source means. So when you use IBM Watson or Dialogflow, you don't have the source code for Watson, right? You don't have the code that is doing all the work, right? What you have is functionality that they have exposed, which you are utilizing, right? So you cannot, for instance, change the underlying code of the platform in order to say change something about how it works. The platform or library is given to you and you use it in the way that it's been given, right? So that's a closed source platform. You don't have access to the source code, and you cannot make modifications to the source code in order to change how the system works. So someone who is able to develop a basic NLP system in a given area using closed source platforms or libraries is what I would call a level 1 practitioner. Okay. A level 2 practitioner is someone who is able to develop a production-worthy NLP system in the given area using closed source platforms or libraries. Okay. So the difference between the level 1 and level 2 is that the system that the level 2 practitioner develops is something that a company can put in production, which means it's something that a company can go live with, right? And the company won't end up frustrating its users or creating a bad impression because the product is terrible, right? Or it's not so good, So that's kind of the difference. And, in order to be a level 2 practitioner, you need to know more than a level 1 practitioner, right? For instance, you need to have an understanding of the limitations of the system that you are developing. So if you use Watson to, develop a system and you're trying it out, you should be able to understand, what the limitations are, when the system might fail, and sort of have a plan to mitigate these limitations. Okay. You also need to, be able to test and evaluate the systems in a very sensible way, right? And you need to be able to deploy an entire solution, right? Not just maybe like a chatbot, but you're able to, deploy an entire solution, right? One where your users are not going to go angry because you have, given them this chatbot, which is supposedly supposed to respond to their queries, and the chatbot is not able to do that. At worst, the chatbot is misleading them, and so on, right? So at level 2, you are still using the same closed source platforms and libraries. So if you are building a chatbot, you are still using things like Watson and things like, Dialogflow, but you understand how dialogue systems work a bit more, right? You understand the limitations, you understand the problems, you understand when your system might fail, and you have, come up with strategies for mitigating these systems. You also have a good understanding of how to evaluate the system, right? So before going live with a system, how do you test the system in a rigorous and systematic way to make sure that when you go live, you don't end up disappointing your users and hurting your company's brand and so on, right? So from level 1 to level 2 is kind of like just a deeper knowledge, a deeper appreciation of, what you need to do, what you need to know, what you need to understand in order to put a system live.